Hey there, it's Mondays with Coach Mel. Who's out there? Let's talk about kids and vegetables. Here we go. My name is Melanie Potock, and I am a speech language pathologist who specializes in feeding kids. And tonight is a really special night because we're going to take questions based on the questions that I've received from our Facebook group called Adventures in Veggieland. I've got a wonderful group of parents and professionals on the Adventures in Veggieland Facebook group, and they're awesome because they're super supportive and they're always posting cool ideas on how to help kids love vegetables. And I asked them to let me know what they want to talk about tonight. So I'm going to be sharing this on their group here shortly, but hopefully you're tuning in. Give me a little hello or a thumbs up or a comment. And if you've got questions, let me know. Put it in the comments and I'll respond to those as we go through this live broadcast. So let's get started. We are going to talk about how you get your toddler to love green veggies. Hi, Ashley. And also how you help a child learn to love a lot of different vegetables, but which one's the best one to start with? So, oh look, all my friends are here. Kristen and Vicki, this is great. Okay, so officially starting, we're going to talk about how you get your toddlers to love green veggies and which is the best vegetable to start with. Well, some of these questions come from just some recent interest from the Adventures in Veggieland group, our Facebook group, all about helping kids learn to love vegetables. And it's based on my book, Adventures in Veggieland. Help your kids learn to love vegetables with 100 easy activities and recipes. And this book, especially in the first chapter, has lots of research that I can share with you about the importance of the 3 E's: expose, explore, expand. That's the way I approach feeding therapy with all of my children. And if you're wondering what feeding therapy is, if you happen to be tuning in because you've got sort of a garden variety picky eater and you're wondering, like, does my kid need therapy? Well, feeding therapy is typically support through an occupational therapist or a speech language pathologist like myself for a child who's having difficulty with physiology, sensory processing, motor skills, and possibly those learned behaviors. However, we're going to bring in lots of other team members like a registered dietitian or even, a board certified behavior analyst, perhaps definitely the pediatrician, perhaps an ENT. There's so many different people who could be part of this team. But I want to take that knowledge that all of us have in that profession and compartmentalize this a little bit for those of you who are watching because you've got a little kid who just doesn't like vegetables, but perhaps isn't on more of that highly selective eating sequence. So let's talk about the 3 E's: expose, explore, expand. And everyone's food adventure is unique and with different roadblocks and different detours. But there are those 3 proven strategies based on research that will help any child make progress in feeding therapy. First, the research shows that it's vital to expose kids to new vegetables throughout the year. And that's why when I wrote Veggieland, I created a book that was arranged according to seasons. So you have 20 different vegetables, all arranged according to season, so that you can get the yummiest, freshest vegetables possible. Not to say there's anything wrong with frozen, because it's inexpensive and it can still be yummy too. So I've got some recipes in there for you as well. A key part of exposure is not simply going to the produce aisle or helping your kids unpack the groceries when you get back. All of that is awesome. But a key part is also food play. We have very good research that shows that when kids play in food, they will eventually learn to eat that food. And it's something that feeding specialists use as a strategy with all of our clients. Even our teenage clients, we do a lot of food play, and that's called cooking. And you can do that too. You can definitely do food play through cooking. So I'll give you some tips around that as well. Just remember that when you use hands-on activities like food play, like building a log cabin with asparagus and cream cheese on a milk carton, you'll find that activity in Adventures in Veggieland, or cooking with your kids in the kitchen, that you're familiarizing their body and brain with the sensory aspects of vegetables, including touch, aroma, even the sound of the crunch. Sound is an important aspect of learning to love food. So I always say that you want to think of it as a first play date. We want it to go well, we want to be focused on fun, and we want the kids to be asking, when can we get together again? When can we cook again? When can we learn about vegetables again? That's the key, and frankly, the answer to all of these questions. Second, you'll begin to explore other aspects of the same vegetable in my book. For example, if you started with the asparagus houses, then you will go on to some very simple recipes where the kids learn to snap the asparagus in just the right spot so those woody ends pop off, or they learn how to use fun knives and child-safe scissors to cut up the asparagus and roast it, or make asparagus bundles wrapped in bacon. Bacon's awesome. It's just that it's a food that we just have every once in a while, not all the time. But yeah, you know, this book isn't strictly vegetarian. Give me a good old hamburger any old day. The other strategy that I include a lot in this book is using small tasting spoons. You know, the kind that professional chefs use. They're the exact same plastic spoon that you get when you go to the gelato store, and they give you a little sample of ice cream. I want kids taste testing everything they're cooking with you and understanding that when you take a taste, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to taste good. It means we're taking a taste so that we can learn how to change the recipe, or add more salt or more butter, or whatever we happen to love. Maybe it's more dill or more basil, so that it tastes good to our palate. Every single person has different taste buds, a different palate, and did you know those change about every 2 weeks? We actually generate new taste buds, and if you go through a period of time where you're not trying a particular food, it's sometimes hard to get back to liking that food. And that's why it's so important to rotate through these foods and keep exposing kids. That's the key. But you have to parent patiently. Kids know that, you know, being in the kitchen is about being with you more than anything else. It isn't necessarily that we're going to necessarily love what we ended up making. I mean, how many times have you made something and thought, that was not good at all? I don't think I'm going to use that recipe again. But the fun of just being in the kitchen is to me, the most important thing. Especially coming from somebody who just created a cookbook. You can't believe how many times I had to make and remake recipes. And I want to tell you, I'm not convinced everybody will love the recipes in that book. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to start with that recipe, taste test, and adapt it slightly as they go. And I mention that several times in the book. Do you like a little more cheese? Put more cheese on the enchiladas. Not such a cheese fan? Take some out. Adapt it for you. That's what's going to help your child really learn to love vegetables, because it will give them some control over the process. All right, last step. Once we have done expose and explore, then we want to begin to expand. And what that means is you're going to introduce more complex flavors, maybe even a veggie dessert. And the one I get the most kick out of, frankly, to tell people about is in that same asparagus chapter, you're going to find chocolate fondue with pureed asparagus in it. And I know that just sounds awful, doesn't it? But it's yummy. And most kids don't know that there is a pureed asparagus in chocolate fondue. How often do you make chocolate fondue with your kids? So get them in the kitchen. My co-author of Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater, Dr. Namali Fernando. She's my dearest friend, but I'm probably her biggest fan. She said the most brilliant thing on TV the other day. She said that the meal really starts when you cook together. And that's how you get kids to learn to love vegetables. So again, parent patiently. Join my group, Adventures in Veggieland. We're all there to support each other because we know this takes time. And not only do we have to keep it fun for the kids, but we got to keep it fun for all of us too, because we want it to happen quicker, and it's a slow process, but we are going to get there. All right, let's talk about the second question. Second question that I got on that group, and then we'll take some from people tuning in today, was which is the best vegetable to start with? Ashley, I see you've got a question here. I promise I'll get to it. Which is the best vegetable to start with? You know, for kids who are just slightly picky or haven't yet had the opportunity to really explore and aren't exposed to vegetables, follow some of the tips we just talked about. And honestly, it doesn't really matter what vegetable you start with. It's about exposing them to a lot of things, and you'll start to notice what they grab onto and they tend to like more. But in terms of kids who are in feeding therapy, we're going to consider 4 different things with those kids. I call that my stacking model, and you'll find a lot of videos about it on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so those videos pop up in your inbox whenever I post a new one. If you're subscribed there right now, this video will pop up in your inbox tomorrow in case you want to listen to it in the car or watch it with your partner or whatever you'd like to do, just for some more information. Okay, so the stacking model. You want to think about 3 blocks stacked on top of each other. The first block is physiology. That's how your body functions. So that's not anatomy, okay? That's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about how well your body functions. And that might include things like constipation. It might include a tongue tie. That's a piece of anatomy, yes, but it impacts how our mouth and our jaw and our oral cavity functions in order to chew and swallow food effectively and efficiently. Physiology might include your gastrointestinal system and reflux or food allergies. That second stack is going to be gross motor skills and fine motor skills. And the third stack would be learned behaviors. What kids do to protect their bodies because their sensory system, which is a part of physiology, or other aspects of physiology, or their motor skills just aren't working the way we want them to. So therapists work with those different blocks in order to help a child learn to trust food again and build the confidence to try new foods. Well, if a child in feeding therapy, you have to decide, gosh, what is he capable of doing? What can he do? So let's say that you have a child in feeding therapy who perhaps can eat Cheerios because those are nice and meltable. And you're asking yourself, I really want him to learn to eat vegetables, so which one do I start with? In terms of which vegetable, if he can already chew a meltable, you could definitely take a step back, and there's nothing wrong with taking a step back, and offer him a pureed vegetable, maybe mixed with a fruit if you want it to be a little bit sweeter. So perhaps it would be squash and applesauce. That's a great combination. But you could start with something that he could bite into and it would melt away. And my first thought would be roasted carrots or even roasted beets. Anything you could put into a strip or even a tiny little cube would be fine, because the kids can hold on to it and that'll give them feedback through their hand so they know what to expect in their mouth. And they can gnaw on it just like you would a cracker or a Cheerio if you want to cut it into a little cube. But roasting always brings out the sweetness, so that's usually my go-to. If I didn't answer your questions well enough, let me know, and I'm happy to elaborate. But right now I can see that Ashley has a really good question here. She says, my toddler is so picky and doesn't want to eat any veggies. Any advice with that? Well, we've covered a tiny bit of it, but I have a million ideas, so let me give you a few more. Um, you want to think about what is contributing to his pickiness. Couple things that will help any family with any child, getting them interested in any sort of food. Make sure he's on a regular mealtime schedule, that he has breakfast, lunch, and dinner at about the same time every day, and then a tiny, tiny little snack. So for a toddler, it would be 2 tablespoons of a food for snack, a toddler being about 2 years old. That's not very much, right? Should be just enough for them to hold in their little hand. No more than that. A snack, you want to keep it small, but a meal can be larger and they can definitely have more. That's the point, is that they come to the table hungry so that they are more willing to try some of these new foods, because hunger is definitely the secret sauce. But you also want to consider that you don't want to keep him at the table for too long, and you definitely don't want to insist that he tries new food, because if we put any pressure in the situation in our family meal times, it raises anxiety and it only creates negative experiences around food. Now, feeding therapy is different. In feeding therapy, as their food coach, once I build confidence and trust with the child, my job is to gently push. So I do put the tiniest amount of pressure on kids in the same way that a soccer coach would put a little tiny bit of pressure on that kid to help him learn how to make a goal. But it's still very supportive and very positive. Okay, to finish your question, Ashley, the other thing I want you to think about is, if he's getting to the table on a regular basis and you're not keeping him there too long, 15 to 20 minutes is fine. Then think about what else you have on the plate. On the plate, you want very small servings of all of his foods. But at mealtime, you can ask for more if you'd like. The main thing to think about is not to have too much on the plate, because that's easily overwhelming. And if it's too much of a preferred food, he'll never try the vegetables anyway. And then finally, make sure that when you are keeping him on a regular mealtime schedule and he is coming to the table hungry and he has a plate that's very underwhelming, that he has plenty of access to a variety of vegetables. So whether you're going to pre-plate or whether you're going to do family style serving, and you can see videos about that on my YouTube channel, make sure that you're offering 1 or 2 vegetables, to be honest with you. Surprising how many kids will pick one vegetable over another, especially if both of them are kind of semi-preferred, which is what you're talking about. He didn't really like them. So make sure he has broccoli and he has corn, or make sure he has carrots and he has some beets, because one of them will be less preferred than the other, which makes the other one look more preferred. There's very good research around that that shows that if you offer a semi-preferred food with a food that isn't preferred at all, that kid will probably try the semi-preferred food. But if you always have a favorite food on the plate, they're not going to try the semi-preferred food. It's kind of like if you put a bunch of chocolate on my plate and then you put tapioca pudding, which I do not like tapioca pudding. I'd eat only the chocolate. Let's see what other questions we have here. Ashley asks, what do you do when baby cries for preferred food and doesn't want to try the veggies? He eats all meats first and then cries and communicates for more. Hey, Ashley, can you let me know how old that baby is? And I can give you a little better answer to that. But in general, what you want to do is make sure that your kiddo knows that whatever you put on the table, even if it's in a bowl so they can help themselves to more, you're not going to get up and get anything else. Make sure the food is already on the table or it's already pre-plated. So let's say that you're pre-plating and you put 3 things on the plate, and it sounds like that your child likes the meat first. He's a little carnivore. So if he eats that and then he wants more, that's okay, but don't give him very much more. Give him like a tablespoon more. And then make sure that that food is somewhere on the table for you to add to his plate. Don't have it in the kitchen. Because if you just have a small amount on the table and you only have maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons more to put on his plate, When the bowl's empty, the bowl's empty. And you can show him that, and you have to be super consistent. Sweetheart, we don't have any more hot dogs. We have broccoli and cheese and crackers. You can have more of those. What would you like? If he continues to fuss, it truly is a matter of parenting patiently, parenting consistently, and never giving in. Give that 3 or 4 nights of not such a happy dinner because he's mad about that. He'll eventually figure out it really is empty. I'm not going to get any more. These are my other options. By parenting really consistently like that, staying really calm and very concise in your approach, he'll eventually figure out and he'll let that argument go. Ashley says, oh, thank you, honey, that the baby you're talking about is 10 months. Oh my goodness, that's my favorite age because so much personality. The thing about 10 months is that they don't have the best memory for what you just said 2 minutes ago. So that's why it's exceptionally important that you have the bowls on the table. Put them at the other end of the table though, so he's not so tempted to keep asking for more. And then after you do give him more, like I said, keep a small amount in the bowl. Make sure you keep the empty bowl near him so that visually he has a visual reminder that, oh yeah, that's all gone. And then if you do need to respond to him several times, keep it very concise, very short in your reply because of his language skills at that end. Hot dogs, all gone. More crackers, that sort of thing. And don't hesitate to repeat it, but don't over-explain. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of information on where to go from there. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Ashley Mason, let me know if you need me to expand on your question at all. And there's a little bit of delay in these comments, so I also want to give everybody a few more minutes to tune in, but and to ask questions, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Let me make sure, though, that I do mention that next week we won't have a Facebook Live because I'm going on a little vacation, and which I'm so excited about. And but at the end of this month, April 30th, is a big Facebook Live because it's going to be with my co-author of Raising a Healthy, Happy Eater, Dr. Namali Fernando. And she and I are going to be on the same screen talking about tips to help children learn to love all sorts of foods, but especially vegetables, because she and I created a preschool food adventure program that currently is being studied by Dr. Nancy Zucker at Duke University. And I'm really excited to tell you that we just got the results of that research back, and we're going to be sharing the exciting news with you about that on April 30th. So be sure to tune in. Great. Anybody else have questions before we sign off for the evening? It looks like we are good to go. So remember, join the Adventures in Veggieland group if you haven't already. And you'll find that right on the My Munchbook page. Look for it where it says join group. Ask your friends to join the group. You can automatically add them. And if I see that you did that, I'll approve it and they'll be in instantly. Tell them the only rule is you got to keep it fun. And be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get these videos if you're not here to ask questions. Hang on. I can see that Kim has a question. I'm sorry, Kate. Kate, you're asking any tips for getting kids to try sauces? We do all the plain stuff. Yeah, I definitely do. I'm going to give you a bunch of them right here, but just in case you have Adventures in Veggieland, go to the appendix and look under dips, and you'll find some of these tips there and more. When it comes to sauces, a lot of times kids need to play in the sauce before they'll ever dip a food in there. So when you're in the mood, give them some of those sauces to do finger painting with. When my kids were little, I'd put them in the tub and fill it, put a couple inches of water in there, nice warm water, and I would give them sauces in a bowl to paint on the side of the tub, and then they could easily rinse off if they didn't like the texture of it. And a lot of times the kids will take a taste and put their finger right in the water to rinse off, but now they have a taste on their tongue. Also, go to the dollar store and get a bunch of those paint brushes for 99 cents. You've seen them. They're the ones that you use with just the boxes of paints that all the kindergartners used. Grab those. You might want to wash them really well. I always wash things from the factory. And then let them paint with those too if they're not willing to use their fingers. You can also give them utensils to paint with, but I especially like those little paint brushes because they get the idea right away. And they can, if you've got two kids in the tub, they can paint each other's faces with the sauces. It's super fun. The point is that when they get involved with sauces with all of their senses, they're much more likely to take a little lick. Try a lot of different ones. Don't hesitate to step away from ketchup or ranch dressing. I mean, those are yummy, but you can make almost any dip by taking, oh gosh, your favorite soup, puree it up in a magic bullet, and add a little bit of potato flakes or anything that'll thicken it up, and give it a good stir, and now you have a nice, thick, savory dip. So think about some of their favorite foods. If they love macaroni and cheese, blend it up and make a dip out of it. And then let them paint and dip with that, or let them maybe even get out a doll and wash her hair with it. I know it sounds crazy, but kids love that kind of stuff, and it takes the pressure off. Take a taste. So just a couple of different ideas for you, but definitely look in Veggie Land because there are, oh gosh, 5 or 6 more for you as well. And oh, great. That's great, Kate. I'm glad you've got the book. Thanks so much for that. Guys, I think that's it. It's so fun doing these on Monday nights. I love getting together with all of you. Thanks for being such a support to me. I really, really appreciate it. And we'll sign off. Go have a wonderful evening. And remember, we'll pick up with these 2 weeks from today because I'm going to go on a little vacation. All right. Bye, everybody.